Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley. It's already been a busy summer for Liverpool, but it could get even busier as they're in search of a striker, according to reports, and it's Newcastle's. Number 9 thereafter, Isak is the target. According to reports, £120 million. Suggestions are if they can't get Isak, then they'll turn their attention to Ekitike, who of course reported yesterday Newcastle were interested in. Meanwhile, of course, they're going to bring players in. They have to get rid of some as well. Luis Diaz, the target for Bayern Munich. Reports suggesting Liverpool have rejected an almost £60 million bid for him. Lots to discuss then as we welcome in Frank Labus with us, as is Nader Manua. Beth Lindop joins us well, very first time on the show for our Merseyside correspondent. Beth, this has come out of nowhere, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite the day from a Liverpool perspective. Started off this morning with the reports about Luis Diaz. Obviously, there's been a little bit of speculation about his future for a little while, and it seems like he's perhaps not going to be offered the contract that he wants at Liverpool. He's got 2 years left on his current deal, so be interesting to see how that situation develops with Bayern Munich. But obviously, yeah, the big story of the day is Alexander Isak, a player that we know that Liverpool have really admired for a while. Arne Slot is a big fan of him. But it always felt like this summer it was going to be too difficult a deal to do. Newcastle have been pretty unequivocal in the stance that they're not letting him go this summer. But then you add Hugo Ekitike into the mix and the possible deal for him going to Newcastle. He's someone that Liverpool have also been keeping tabs on. So between those two players and those two clubs, it looks like we could be in for a little bit of a saga, I think.
If you're Isak, Craig, your head's going to be turned, isn't it, by Liverpool being interested?
Absolutely, and the fact that Newcastle got into the Champions League, scraping in there, I think they might have felt that would have been enough. But if Liverpool come calling, the current English champions, the favourites for the title again this year before a ball is kicked, so his head is going to be turned, and it'll come down to money, to bids, and to how much maybe Isak's camp forces the issue. Dare I say it, that I think Liverpool would have been looking to buy a striker anyway. I mean, if they don't get Diaz, they can't afford to lose. If they don't get Alexander Isak, then they can't afford to lose Diaz to Barcelona. Bearing in mind, obviously, the tragic summer that they've had, and I hate to say this, but the passing of Diogo Jota means, and such an important player for them, means that we're already thinner in terms of their squad. And so they definitely have to get players in before they even think about letting anybody go. But if you're Alexander Isak and you're Liverpool, bearing in mind you've signed Florian Wirtz in the summer, number 10, who's going to make things happen. Bearing in mind you're super strong in the middle of the park. Bearing in mind you're super strong in the wide positions. If you could bring in one of the hottest strikers in European football, then that's another big statement on top of the ones that you've already made earlier this summer already.
Nader, Newcastle fans will be hoping, right, OK, a bid's come in, we've said no, that's the end of the story. But if you're Alexander Isak, how much part do you have to play in whether or not you stay or go this summer?
I think, as we look at it today, I don't think he really has to do much, because in reality, Liverpool, if they've been rejected this first time, there'll probably be another bid that comes in and another bid that comes in. And I think maybe when the figures start to get north of that £100 million mark, if Newcastle's still saying no, then maybe that's the point where Isak has to make a statement himself. But for now, it's almost like he holds the cards. He's very much wanted at Newcastle and very much wanted at Liverpool. If the two clubs can agree a fee, then great. But I think if it gets towards the end of the window and maybe Newcastle have made a really strong stance, then that's when perhaps Isak will have to speak up if this is the move that he really wants. But again, as Craig was saying, they are in the Champions League. So the move itself, perhaps it's not as obvious as, say, it could have been in years gone by. But the fact is, when the Premier League champions do come calling, they might not call again. So maybe this is the time to say, well, for me, this is the right move and this is where I want to be.
Yeah, that's it, Frank, isn't it? Both teams, of course, in the Champions League, but as a player, surely it's the ambition of going on to win it all, and Newcastle fans won't like it, but obviously you've got a lot better chance of winning it with Liverpool than you have with Newcastle. That's got to tempt the player, isn't it?
Certainly, and when you're a player, you're ambitious, you want to win a trophy, silverware, and it's obvious that you have more chances to win with Liverpool than with Newcastle. But it's a tricky situation for Isaac. I mean, he will be a betrayer for the Magpies and maybe an opportunist. But that's football. I will completely understand Isaac if he decides to go to Liverpool, and I will understand the fans to be so much disappointed by losing one of the best strikers in Europe playing the Champions League. So there is no comfortable situations for anybody, especially for Isaac. I think, as Nathan said, it's better if he doesn't say anything. He lets things go. If he has to play for Newcastle for another season, he will play in the Champions League. If he has a chance to go to Liverpool, he will enjoy it.
But it doesn't say much for, I think one of the other things is that Newcastle and Eddie Howe have to be super confident that if this does happen, the club have got the plan B in place, because they had a pretty good...
It would in theory be Etikike, yeah?
Well, it would, because Callum Wilson has left as well, so
yeah.
the backup striker...
Shut up, Nathan.
The backup, it's not Çalhanoğlu, you're all right, you found a new one. There's no Çalhanoğlu now, so we've found a new one where he can't get his teeth in. So Wilson was backing up Alexander Isak. They've both potentially... Wilson's gone, Isak could go. If this happens, it's not a very good message from the Saudi ownership to the Newcastle fans, is it? In terms of what they're trying to build, where they're trying to go. If you're selling your best players at the height of their career to one of the big rivals in the Premier League, it's not really a great signal to your fan base, is it? Unless they bring in somebody better. It does it better.
And Ekitike is not better than Isak. Obviously, you take a look at these numbers, but you compare Bundesliga, obviously, to the Premier League.
I think that's the sort of juxtaposition that Newcastle, and particularly Eddie Howe's in, that you're trying to build a squad, and you build a lot of it around, of course, your team work ethic, but superstars like Alexander Isak, and you sell them to one of the other teams in the top 4 or 5 that are in the Champions League. Again, sometimes it's politics and it's tough to keep people. It might be this PSR that Newcastle might be struggling to crunch the numbers, and they may have to sell them, but it isn't a great signal to your fan base.
PSR, Beth. We love that on this show, by the way. Where have Liverpool got this money from?
Yeah, well, PSR hasn't really been a concern for Liverpool for the past couple of seasons, and the reason that they've been able to spend what they've already spent this summer and why they still have some wiggle room is because they have been pretty shrewd rather in terms of the finances over the past few years. Last summer they only bought Federico Chiesa for 12 million. They didn't buy anyone in January. So while other clubs, the likes of Manchester City, Arsenal, over the past couple of seasons have spent pretty big, Liverpool have kept that spending to a minimum, and obviously they're bringing in enormous revenue. They were back in the Champions League last season, having spent a season in the Europa League. They've gone on and won the Premier League. All of the sponsorship deals and everything that comes with that, and the TV money and everything like that, it puts them in a really strong position financially. So if Liverpool aren't to sign Alexander Isak this summer, I don't think it'll be because of finances. I think the money is there if Liverpool are able to get a deal over the line. Plus, when you consider, it's likely that Darwin Núñez is probably going to be heading for the exit door. We know that Saudi Arabia have been a little bit interested. Napoli, obviously the front runners at the moment to sign him, and they've got other assets the likes of Harvey Elliott, who you would imagine could command somewhere around 40 million. So they do have players that they can offload, for want of a better word, to raise a little bit of extra cash. But yeah, they're PSR compliant at the moment, and that's not really a concern for them. So I think, as I say, if this Isak deal doesn't get over the line, it won't be because of a lack of funds on Liverpool's end.
You take a look at the starting 11, say that Isak does come in, Nathan, they're pretty stacked, Liverpool.
Yeah, when you were saying some of those players before, I completely forgot how good they could potentially be, given the fact that, they have that joy of winning the league last season as well, and players who are still young and trying to prove themselves as well. Like, it's always funny to remember that Isak, he's only in his mid-20s. You look at Gyokeres, he's young as well, and they've got a ton of experience in there, but so much quality at the same time. So if that ends up being the starting 11 that they have, it's great, but then also, they do have some depth on the bench as well. So if you're a Liverpool fan, I think they were speaking, I think the Liverpool group were talking about, this is going to be a great summer, we're going to be bringing in players and so on and so forth. Well, they've certainly done that, and if they can bring across Isak, that is one of the biggest signings I think they've probably had in their Premier League history.
Yeah, with or without Isak, Frank, it's fair to say Liverpool are favourites to win the Premier League, to retain the title. You bring them in, bring Isak in, that takes them to another level.
Yeah, it's going to be a plus, but you already take a look on the first 11 and take a look on the bench. I mean, the depth of the bench is amazing. When you see that you have Diaz, that you have Szoboszlai, Elliott, and Bradley as well. I mean, those players have already proven that they could play in any team in the world, and they're going to be sitting on the bench for Liverpool. So Liverpool is showing to the world that they're ready to get the Champions League, and of course, again, get the Premier League.
No matter who Arsenal bring in, and as good a side as they are and could be, that's the marker there, isn't it?
That's the standard.
You know, when you've got people like Dominic Szoboszlai potentially on the bench, Curtis Jones, who was excellent last year, but Szoboszlai's the captain of Hungary. He's a terrific player. Might not get in this Liverpool side, and a lot of this goes down to the fact that the recruitment, and I know the recruitment side of it had a change again, 12 months or so with people coming in and people coming back. But the fact that Arne Slot came in last year and a lot of people were going, right, how's he going to do? What's he going to change? What's he going to tinker with? How's he going to cope with a different league, different pressures? The fact that he, certainly in England, not so much in Europe, but certainly in England, the fact that he sailed through that with such flying colours and such a stylish, professional sort of, you know, the way that he handled himself last year, never mind the way that his team played was first class. And I think that has just given the Liverpool ownership and the Liverpool board and all the sporting directors and whatnot the confidence to go out and say, listen, we just need to get this guy what he needs and he's going to do the job. Because what he did last year with very little changes to that Klopp side was amazing. And I think that's given them a lot of confidence to go out, spend big and really back the manager.
Let's talk a little bit more about Luis Diaz, of course. Reports that you've put out suggesting that Liverpool have turned down a bid already for Bayern Munich. Obviously, he's been linked to Barcelona this summer as well. Is it inevitable you feel that he will be leaving Anfield?
It's a difficult one to call, really. I personally really like Luis Diaz. I think he's a great player. He had his most productive season for Liverpool last season, and Liverpool have been pretty firm in their stance that they don't want him to go this summer. They value in him, you know, about 100 million euros, but that's just sort of an internal for the books kind of thing. That's not because they want to sell him. And you would imagine it would be quite difficult for them to get anywhere near that fee in the market. So I think, you know, Craig mentioned there about the change in recruitment, and I think since Michael Edwards has come back to the club in a slightly different capacity, but still sort of overseeing transfers, Liverpool have adopted an approach whereby, you know, they're quite happy for players to run down the contract, to let players go for free if Liverpool feel like they're not going to get the value for them in the market. And I think that's where they're at with Luis Diaz at the moment. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They're probably at a point now where they think we don't want to give him loads of money on a massive new contract. We'd rather him see out his contract and leave for free in 2 years' time. Now, of course, it's getting the player to agree to that, and there have been some noises from Diaz's camp that maybe he does want to move on this summer. So it will be a bit of a balancing act, I think, to try and make sure that the player is happy. But I think from Liverpool's perspective, they'd be more than happy for him to stay. I guess it just depends how much Bayern really want him and how much they're prepared to pay.
I mean, the problem is, and one of the problems you have or can have with re-signing new players now, the big three that we talked about last year was Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's left, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah. And when you
where's your head, sorry, Craig, if you're Luis Diaz? Like, how much...
My head would be, and I agree with Beth, I think he's a very good player, clearly a very good player, a game changer. But I think my head would be with Luis Diaz. On a Friday, am I getting the nod to be playing on a Saturday or Sunday, or am I going to be on the bench?
Right.
Is Cody Gakpo going to be playing? Is Mo Salah going to keep up this great run? Am I going to play as a false nine? Am I going to be getting regular game time and all that sort of stuff? Plus, to my initial point, Mo Salah did not sign for small wages. Virgil van Dijk did not sign for small wages. And when players see this, when players understand what some of the other superstars are on, then their agent goes in with higher demands.
Sure.
And there is a ceiling and a fence where Liverpool can only pay a certain amount to a certain amount of players. He can't give everybody the money that Van Dijk and Mo Salah is getting. It just, it just won't stack up. And so that's the difficult scenario that they're in. That these players know they'll pay big wages to their superstars, and then their agents will push the boundaries. So I think it's a bit of both. Probably a bit of money and a bit for Luis Diaz, I would imagine, getting his head turned elsewhere. And also, how much am I going to play? How much am I going to be in this Army slot side? And at the moment, we really can't answer that question because he was in and out last year.
Yeah, Frank, where's your head if you're Diaz?
I'm with Craig. I want to play because that's the most important things, but I want to be paid also the right amount. And if you are paid the right amount, if they push and say, okay, we give you that money, but you're going to be on the bench, I will be Diaz. I will go. I want to play football. I'm a game changer, as Craig said. He's a game changer. He's somebody with his pace, with his football, with his talent, with his skill, can change a game. And how many clubs would love to have him? But if you're on the bench, you cannot prove that week in, week out. So I will decide to go if I'm not sure to at least play 50 games like he played last season. Because I think it will be a big loss for Liverpool. Liverpool has to make sure to keep that guy and make him happy. It's up to Slot to make him play enough in order for him to not complaining too much. That's the thing. That's the deal that Slot will have to go with many players, like Jones, like Szoboszlai, like maybe Elliott, like maybe a little bit less Bradley because he's young. But to have a depth in the squad is good as long as everybody's happy, and it's hard to keep that balance.
Rodrigo's available as well, Nedum, of course. Is there an argument to say you would prefer the Real Madrid man to Luis Diaz?
I think for me, I would rather see Luis Diaz stay at Liverpool than say Rodrigo come across that way, because I think his understanding of the Premier League and the way he's adapted since he first moved over, I think it's been really, really good. I think at times his output in those early parts of the season haven't been essentially as good as some people would like, but I think from my perspective, he's settled in, he's helped them become league winners. He's been adaptable, he's played off the left, he's played in the middle, sometimes he's played on the right, and he understands what the club need and what the club want. But from the other side of things, as the guys have kind of alluded to there, there's something that I've heard in terms of a conversation about him, and this might seem like the most out-of-touch conversation in the world, and it very much might be, but I think his salary is somewhere between £50,000 and £60,000 a week.
Right.
I think for somebody who's just won the Premier League, who's as important to the squad as, say, he has been for Liverpool, you'd probably expect it to be higher. And I know that, Mo Salah is one of one, but, this is someone that's on £400,000 a week potentially. That gap itself, from a perspective of Diaz, is probably too big. But as Craig said, will Liverpool and can Liverpool afford to pay him more? I think for some players, like no matter how good a situation you're in, you do want to feel valued. And I think if he could potentially get more money elsewhere, but still have the same status as he has at Liverpool, in terms of being someone that's mostly going to be starting, for a team that's going to be winning the league, maybe, then perhaps that's what the motive's going to be. Because at some point, ego comes into it, and a sense of pride, and he will believe that he's basically outperformed that contract by a country mile. So either Liverpool give him a new deal, or he goes elsewhere and finds that money.
You're talking about Rodrigo to Bayern?
Yeah, Rodrigo to Bayern, obviously that could be an option.
Luis Diaz to Bayern?
Yeah, if you've got to choose between the two of them.
I think I'd have Luis Diaz.
Would you?
For probably, I think I'm probably getting a bit more consistency.
Right.
Although maybe I'm reading a bit too much into the last season that Rodrigo had at Real Madrid, because he was far from the only one that struggled. And we have seen him perform admirably there, to be honest with you. So what the hell's going to happen to him? I don't know. He certainly looks as if he's surplus to requirements under Xabi Alonso. But I think from Liverpool's perspective, if I'm Arne Slot, I'm digging away at Luis Diaz.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're just saying, look, we've got a lot of games this
Listen, come on, I'm going to be using you. You're going to, all that sort of stuff a manager has to say to try and coax somebody who might be on the edge of trying to get a move, and just give me one more year, give me another season. Next year we'll let you go with a year to go in your contract. All that sort of stuff. You're going to be a big player. You've been all the sort of bluff and bluster that it's not lies. It's not lies. He's been a big player for them. The problem is in that front line, particularly if they sign Alexander Isak, getting some game time for some of these players is going to be quite tough. So that's where the manager comes into it, trying to coax the player to stay. At this moment in time, we just don't have the answer whether that's going to happen or not.
Beth, thank you very much for your time. I know you're very much focusing on the quarterfinals now of the Euros. The one question, though, of course, everybody asks anyone who goes to Switzerland, how much is a beer?
Incredibly expensive, yeah. I mean, I had got a cocktail in my hotel the other night, and it was nearly £20. So yeah, it was very expensive, but it's beautiful out here, so I can't complain too much.
Thank you very much, Beth. Oh, imagine how angry Stevie would be. £20 a beer.
To be fair, that is a potential way to have him go dry.
Well, yes, indeed, I think so.
We just have to move him to Switzerland.
On that note, we'll say thank you very much, Beth.
Imagine how much.
Go on, Frank.
Imagine how much I would have paid, for you guys. How much I would have paid last time you had 27 beers? It would have cost me a fortune.
All right, shut up.
All right, Frank. Go on.
Shut up. We're trying to run a promo here.
And what a promo it is, because Nadim and Craig will be in attendance at Wembley for the Community Shield. Crystal Palace against Liverpool. Of course, the curtain raiser for the start of the Premier League season, August 10th, live and exclusive on ESPN+. Chelsea, the best team in the world, of course, after beating PSG by 3 goals to 0. Take that, all you haters. We've heard that a lot from Chelsea fans and Chelsea players over the last 48 hours, including Cole Palmer. Everyone doubted us before the game. We knew that. To put a fight on like we did, it's good. The gaffer put a great game plan out. He's building something special, something important. Everybody's talked a lot about us all season, but I feel like we're going in the right direction. Nadim, you were laughing when you saw Cole Palmer struggle in the second half of the season. See, I told you, this is why City got rid of him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, Dan Thomas. And now in this reality, that's absolutely not the case. But I like the fact that he's speaking with his chest in that manner, because I think for him, seeing on a day-to-day basis what the manager's doing, how the players are improving and how he fits in with this, then that's great. But what I would adjust is that some of the people that were talking about, say, the team, one of them was Enzo Maresca when Chelsea were close to the top, saying there's no way this team can win the league. There's no way. If we said that, we'd be the ones who'd be getting this grief now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was right. He was very correct, yeah. But the other side of it, though, to be honest, is as you see this Chelsea side, you see they're a young side. Obviously, the recruitment means more players are coming in, more players are coming in. But one thing I'm seeing is that they are a coachable side. And for the way that they play, they seem to be able to match up to any team on any particular day. And when he talks about this game against PSG, listen, in my opinion, people weren't necessarily doubting them. They were more so believing in PSG. And I don't see why in 2025 you wouldn't want to believe in PSG in terms of what they could do. So Chelsea were almost more of an afterthought. But in fairness to them, they made it to the final for a reason. The run that they've had, the fact that they were able to play those games, they haven't played the most games this year, have they, as we saw in the rounds before. But they earned the right to be there. And in that particular game, as I've just said before, they can beat anyone on their day. And that was certainly their day. The manager had a plan, the players had the belief, they had the confidence, they had the desire. And with a bit of good fortune, they end up routing the team that nobody thought could be beaten.
Very angry, aren't they?
Yes, it's quite a lot of abuse coming our way.
They finished... No, are we getting abuse?
Oh, yes. Yeah, don't worry.
Muppets. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what Chelsea have done in the summer, as impressive as this has been in this competition, which, as you well know, it's pretty...
It's all right, we've moved on from now. We don't even have to...
contrived. What they did was excellent, and Frank and I talked about it on Sunday after the final, saying, look, if you can bottle this sort of performance and get this with consistency, then you're not going to go far wrong.
Yeah.
But we saw 6 months of Chelsea being very good last year, maybe 4 or 5 months of Chelsea being very good, and then 4 or 5 months have been very average. So, it all boils down to how they're going to do in the Premier League and the Champions League. But initial signs are that they're in good shape, particularly with João Pedro, who looks fantastic.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Again, we'll make a statement about Cole Palmer. Within maybe 2-3 years, we will see that he's still a leader of Chelsea. He brings differences and is consistent. That's the only thing we can say. The guy has talent. He shows character right now. Saying, oh, you are saying biases to us. We are showing you are wrong. No, we are not wrong. We are fair. We know what we see. We understand football and we love you, but we want more and we need consistency. And as we said on Sunday, if Chelsea is capable of doing what they did on Sunday, they can win the Premier League. But we already know that's kind of impossible all season long. So we'll see what's going on next season. Good luck to them.
I think what was surprising, Frank, at the weekend was the space that PSG afforded the Chelsea midfield. Now, Chelsea actually really pressed PSG hard in the first 45 minutes. But PSG did not press, and what we saw, their great success in the second half of the season, was the pace of their play. And in some sense, everything they did really well from January to winning the Champions League against Inter, all that stuff that got them into that position and had them success, disappeared in this game. Now, was it just because Chelsea played a super game, which they did? Or was it the fact that it was Chelsea's 64th game and it was PSG's 65th in this hot climate that everybody's talked about, and it just looked as if they were dead on their feet? Either that or the players couldn't wait to get on the holidays, because, you know, Mendes had a terrible game and he's been absolutely terrific at left back, but he was going missing, and whenever he went missing, Cole Palmer would step into those little holes and Chelsea would exploit it. And so when you give somebody like Cole Palmer that kind of space,
right,
then he's going to kill you, because he's already shown for 18 months, 2 years in the Premier League that he can pick a pass, he can see a pass, and he can play a pass, as well as score goals and have good end product. And that's him under pressure. When you give him the type of space that PSG gave him, which was a big surprise in terms of their performance, then he's going to go and hurt you. And if you set off him in the Premier League, he will do that to you, but he will not get that amount of space on a weekly basis in England like he did in New York at MetLife at the weekend.
Nathan, the narrative coming out of the Chelsea camp is no one believed in us, we showed them, which, as the boys have said, you know, it's good for a one-off game, but to do that week in, week out in the Premier League, how do you carry that sort of attitude into a league season?
I think this season is going to be very, very tough to sort of measure, because for them finishing the season just this last weekend, but the Premier League season starts in just under a month's time, or around a month's time, that is strange. You know, that's a lot of football to be played. They're entitled to 3 weeks off now. Did he come back sharp? Did he come back, you know, tired? Like, where are their heads and where's the physicality going to be at? But one thing for sure from a personal standpoint is they're going to be arriving with a ton of confidence, because that's the second trophy they've won this summer. And I know both trophies could be argued that in the grand scheme of things, nobody's saying it's a huge success for Chelsea to win the Conference League or for them to win the Club World Cup. But the fact is they were there, they did it, they played those games, they've won 2 finals, they've earned the right to be lifting those 2 trophies, and they're in the Champions League. So they're in a good spot. I think, as Cole Palmer was even saying as well after the game, like, he mentioned the manager's game plan. So the manager has a plan, he can see what the opposition will do, but he has the players that can adapt to that as well. And as Craig said, the way that teams will play in the Premier League will be very, very different. But it feels like the players trust the manager and the manager trusts the players. And at the moment, the output is putting them in a position to whereby we can see who they're trying to be. And I think there are so many teams that aren't in that position. So going into the next year, maybe Maresca will say they can win the title this season, but only time will tell, because consistency is going to be the difference.
A lot more. Oh, let's go move on. We've talked about like Chelsea.
Game plans.
Game plans.
It's amazing how there's always a game plan when you've had a great result.
Yeah, exactly. A lot more reaction if you've missed any of it over on our YouTube channel about Chelsea becoming champions of the world. Be sure to go to ESPN FC and subscribe. Gyokeres is still not an Arsenal player. This is the sporting president, Berandes, speaking last week. If the geniuses who are devising this strategy think that this puts pressure on me to make it easier for him to leave, not only are they completely wrong, but they're also making it more complicated for the player to leave. No one is above the interests of the club, whoever they are. This is the reaction to Gyokeres going on strike, of course, not turning up for pre-season training. Frank, have you ever found yourself in this sort of situation?
Yes, when I was in Strasbourg, I wanted to sign for Marseille and I couldn't because Strasbourg was too much. And when Chelsea came up, Strasbourg said, no, we don't want you to go. And I got very upset because I had a hard season with the board and I wanted to leave. So I pretended that I wanted to retire and that my father was so rich that I didn't need to work anymore and be worried for my future. And I don't know if they believed it, but they opened the door and they talked to Chelsea. And it's funny that I even talked to Colin Hutchinson saying, don't go above 2.5 million. Get up if they ask for more, and it's what happened. And I signed for 2.5 million. So yeah, I pretended that I didn't need football to be happy in my life, which was absolutely untrue because my father was a plumber and I needed money, I needed a life, and I needed a career. So that was a bet. But I think you cannot keep a player who doesn't want to stay. That's the thing. He can pretend that the strike doesn't bother him, that whatever he wants. If Gyokeres wants to go at a certain point, he will have to let him go, because that's not worth the battle. He's going to lose the war. And it's what happened with me and so many others. If a player wants to leave, let him go.
What a backstory. My father's so rich, I don't need football.
Lover.
I know, very lucky there wasn't Wikipedia at the time.
It's not ideal for Arsenal, is it? In a sense that the more, and I don't condone not turning up for training and all that. If you're not getting your way, you've got to be a bit more professional the way you go about it. Because the more you annoy your ownership and your chairman, and the more he clearly is digging in, the only way to solve that is by Arsenal writing a bigger cheque. So it's not really helping the scenario unless Arsenal just go, oh yeah, here's another 10 million. Hopefully the chief exec, whatever he is, the owner of Sporting or the chairman is happy. Because when a chairman digs in, like he is, the only way around it is for Arsenal to cut a bigger cheque. So, and that might get the job done, but it might not.
Nadim, have you experienced other players? Have you seen this happen before?
To a certain extent, yes, because you do see some players that have that move that potentially lined up, and in fairness, it always seems to end up with the player moving, as Frank was alluding to there, because keeping a player that doesn't want to be there can be quite disruptive. Sometimes it can be, on a day-to-day basis, like Gyokeres not turning up to train, and that's one thing. But what happens if he turns up and now he's going around and just kicking some of his teammates? I think one thing that happens is the way that clubs tend to get you back, you might start paying fines, for example. But in reality, like, this is probably going to end up with Gyokeres going there because he's decided to burn that bridge. But the hope is that Arsenal don't firstly see this as like a character flaw with him, but secondly, they can bring that money out and say, we will bring you across. Because one thing's for sure, this chairman, he's adamant that the price is going to be the price. And I think from his interest, that's the way things should be. But for now, Gyokeres is in this really awkward position because he's put all his eggs in this basket. If it doesn't work out, then, yeah, good luck to him.
I've seen a player get his big move and then go on strike. You know that story, didn't you? Mark Viduka.
No.
He got his big move from Croatia Zagreb to Celtic after we played them in the Champions League. And he was a right freaking handful. Ask Alan Stubbs and Matt Reaper.
Right.
They come off, their noses were all over the place, and he was brilliant up front for Croatia Zagreb. And so we said, we've got to sign this guy. So Celtic signed him. And then he, in the 98-99 season, and he arrived at Celtic Park, and then he trained either one day or 2 days, and then he disappeared. It's amazing.
Brilliant.
And we were all like, where's Viduks? And somebody went, he's gone missing. And he'd gone back to Croatia. Something had happened within the contract that they'd promised him, and he wasn't happy.
Right.
So he sodded off. So we actually signed a player.
He was quite an interesting character, wasn't he, Mark Viduka?
Yeah, he was a nice guy, Viduks. He was a nice guy, but he was his own man. And Fergus McCann, who was the Celtic owner at the time, actually was over in Zagreb, basically looking for him. We used to laugh about it, the boys. Honestly, we used to come in every morning and you say, how do players cope with that? Players saw the funny side of it.
Yeah.
We had the front line of Mark Viduka and Henrik Larsson. But at that point, we only had the front line of Henrik Larsson.
Right, because
the big Aussie was on the missing list. And we just found it so funny. But he was in Croatia, and the club owner had to go to Zagreb to first of all find him and then convince him to come back. And you can only imagine when he came back into that dressing room.
Yeah, the
Absolute pelters he got from the boys was incredible. But listen, some players with their mentality, it can happen. If they just don't get what they want, then they just do things their own way. And clearly at the moment, Gyokeres is doing that.
A lot more stories, of course, on Extra
Not
Time.
really, no.
Which you can, there will be. Not from
more.
you, but maybe some other interesting ones. Be sure to check that out over on YouTube. Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Nadim and Frank with us. Frank, what have you done to your finger?
I tried to cut my baguette yesterday.
Such a French
and
story.
I forgot I had the finger in the middle.
Yes.
And I forgot that, it's a French story.
Yes.
And I was wearing my beret and I forgot I had the finger I forgot my finger, so I cut it like that and whatever.
Oh, lovely.
Stupid man. I was awake enough.
Nadem, if
Opened his
Liverpool...
wallet. Try to open his wallet.
No, that's Stevie. Nadem, if Liverpool get Isak and Arsenal get Gyokeres and Eze, who would have the better front three between Liverpool, City and Arsenal? Before we get to that, what's City's best front three, Nadem?
Good question. I think I think you can see two different sides to City. If they're going to be playing with wingers, then you're going to be looking at, say, like Doku and Savinho. But if they're going to be playing with inside forwards, then maybe that's a Shirky and a Foden type. So I think it really just depends. But again, he's got the variability, he's got the options. So we'll see how he plans it out this year. But in terms of those front lines, I still quite like Liverpool, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think with Isak being somebody who we've seen score 20 goals a season in the Premier League, I think for the last couple of seasons, that is a massive coup for them. Because if you can find that alongside a Salah that can get 20, 25, and maybe Gakpo chipping in with like 10, 15, that's probably that's going back towards old school Liverpool with like Salah, Mane and Firmino type energy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it, Frank?
Very good, and they have all the options. That's what threats me and for the other teams. But yeah, it's true that everybody that you see in the front line can be a threat to anybody. And Arsenal, Liverpool for me will have the best three at front.
Well, maybe it won't be a mediocre season then, huh?
No, it looks like we should improve on
Well, it was mediocre, wasn't it?
Yeah, just we're missing some superstars.
Stevie thought it was...
Well, I think Stevie changed his tune by the end.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he agreed with
Not
me.
difficult to turn the worm?
No, most definitely
Like
not.
Don Hutchinson style?
Not as bad as
Flick it,
Don.
Just flick it and he turns.
Nadem, how do you rate Manchester City's summer signings overall with the likes of Shirky, Nauri and Reinders? Do you think Manchester City still need to sign a right back this summer?
No, I'm not too concerned about the right back, to be honest. But for the brief outing that they had at the Club World Cup, I did like the look of Reinders, did like the look of Shirky, and I think some of the link-ups that they had looked really good. And I think as a consequence, that sort of midfield three or whatever it's going to be can be quite different on a week-to-week basis, but have real good quality. And I think some of the chance creation is going to be up this year, so I'm quite happy with those two signings. And for Nouri, we've seen him do it for Wolves. Obviously, doing it for Man City is different, but he's a really good, comfortable attacking option on that side. So I get a feeling he's going to be having lots of goal contributions this year as well.
Craig, is it over for Manchester United? They're broke, have only completed one signing, and all their rivals have strengthened. We've seen clubs like Leeds and Everton fall from grace. Is United done being a serious club?
Well, it's certainly looking like they're going to be doing a lot of the stuff, if any, late. Did you see the reports about the four players coming back? Rashford, Garnacho,
Yep.
Antony and Jadon Sancho have been told to report at 5 p.m, allegedly, in the evening. I mean, that's just telling you that...
Horrendous.
You know, that's just fostering. That, under no circumstances can that be good. Whether they come in at 5 p.m, 3 p.m, 7 p.m, at no point can that be good for the whole camp, right? Regardless of how poor the actual team is, that's just, you know, those are four big players, whether they've performed well or not. The four biggest players and a kind of youngster in Garnacho, who was arguably one of the best players, certainly early on in the season. But what's this? Where are these signings that Ruben Amorim hung his hat on, saying, once I get my players, and I know he got Dorgu last year to sort of play in the wing back, when I get my players that'll fit my system, this freaking system.
Nicholas Jackson has been linked, I'm being heard, but someone's telling me.
What, wasn't a time warp? I thought it was April 1st.
Wow.
I mean, that would just absolutely sum up Man United in a nutshell. To go from a sort of stumbling workman-like Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee to another guy who effectively now is going to be surplus to requirements, certainly in the starting lineup. No, I can't see it, but it would be just typically them. But I'm concerned about what way they're trying to go. What's happened to this Ineos coming in and being this brilliant?
Do you remember? It was like fresh breath of fresh air. They're coming in.
I've said this many times. Whether the Glazers are the Glazers, right? And I know they've run the club with debt and they've taken a lot of money out and dividends, millions and millions and all this sort of stuff. And I know the training ground needs updated, I know the ground needs updated and all that stuff. But in terms of business, they are laughing their socks off. They have encouraged and coaxed investment to come in to the tune of 1.2 billion while still retaining majority ownership of the football club, while sitting probably in the United States on their hands watching it all fall apart and Ineos getting the blame, and rightly so. So Jim Ratcliffe and all these cronies that come in, Brailsford and the rest of them, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing? That is the big question. And at this moment in time, they are looking no more than a sort of mid-table team at best.
Nadim, just going back to the point that Craig made about those players who've been, well, very much sent to Coventry in the sense that they are very much outed at the club. You said horrendous when we were talking about that.
Yeah, because it is, in my opinion. I think I've been through this. This happened to me when I was at Man City with Roberto Mancini. It was myself, it was Craig Bellamy, Emmanuel Adebayor, Wayne Bridge, Roque Santa Cruz and a couple of others. And firstly, we were told that we were going to come in to start pre-season a week after the rest of the first team. So they travelled to America, they did their pre-season. It was the pre-season where Balotelli did that back heel in one of the games. But anyway, they did that, then they came back. And now the two of us, we were the bomb squad, let's call us that. We were training basically with the under-18s, yeah? The Deadwood, that's who we were. And we were training at the same time as the others, the first team at one particular occasion. And our session finished a little bit before there, so myself and Craig Bellamy, we walked over to the first team pitch, sat down on some balls and just watched a training session of people who we call our friends and of people who we call our peers, because for the years prior, we'd been playing with them. That next evening, message comes through. You guys are not to train before 3 p.m. on any day going forward.
Wow.
And the reason for 3 p.m. is because they knew that was the latest time that somebody could still be at the training ground. And I think to myself sometimes, like, a club can tell you that they don't want you, that you have to find a new space. But why does this element of like psychological warfare have to arrive as well? Because the player's message is already clear. We don't want you, we don't need you here. But at the end of the day, like, these are still functioning members, functioning professionals who surely, if they are training and they're working hard and so on, might help in terms of the sale anyway. But instead, you put themselves in this situation. And for those like players, you know, we've just said there, like, they're linked with Nicholas Jackson. At the minute, you know, who's going to be playing in that training session if Rashford's not there, if Sancho's not there, if Garnacho's not there, you know, if these other players aren't there, if Anthony's not there. You could raise the quality, you could raise the competition, but those players can still know that they don't have a future there. But instead, you build resentment, and that resentment can spread because those people who they're not training with now, those are their friends, those are their peers. And as a consequence, you now start to look at the club a bit funny because if it can happen to them, who's to say it can't happen to you? And to finish this off with just one final point, I was lucky enough to play with Patrick Vieira when he was at City for like a year and a half, and he told me a story about when he was at Inter Milan. Jose Mourinho, I believe it was, said to him, "You are not part of my plans for this season, but I want you to come, train with the team, and who knows, if things go well, maybe you'll play in the season. But as it stands, you're not part of my plans." Patrick went, he trained really well, and I think maybe there was an injury at the start of the season. First game of the season, who's starting for Jose Mourinho at Inter Milan? It's Patrick Vieira. What's the harm in allowing professionals to be professional instead of just putting them to the side and forcing them to, you know, be this terrible version of themselves which nobody needs to see?
Nadim, how long did that go on for?
It went on for the entire, till the transfer window closed. And I'll never forget Adebayor. Like, I liked him, I thought he was a really cool guy. Initially, he was like, "Oh, this is fine, I'll just deal with this," and so on and so forth. But then those trips in at those sorts of times, they break you because you're not even training with the under-18s sometimes. Sometimes it's just 4 of you, sometimes it's 5 of you, doing stuff that we know is just designed to time waste, designed to just frustrate you, but all the while, you don't have access to your teammates, you don't have access to the manager. They're trying to make it as tough for you as possible. And I know that what the strange thing about it is this happens in so many football clubs. And to be honest, for myself, like, this is my football club I was talking about, this is my team, Man City, team I was academy graduate for, ball boy, all this. I did not cause any disruption within that squad. So why is it all of a sudden you're being dragged out as if you're the cancer of a situation? And I think that's the disappointing part because it makes you really resent the things that are happening around you and the people who are making those decisions, because more often than not, people will believe that they deserve better.
It was easier to do it. I say easier, it was certainly different. Years ago, when there was less money in the game, it was much easier to jettison a player in that scenario, because the financial burden to the club who, in the case, was much less. And we're already talking. So we're talking about, maybe money shouldn't come into it, but we're talking about, I think, the highest earner at Manchester United, and Marcus Rashford. We're talking about £100 million outlay in Anthony, and we're talking about what they spent on Jadon Sancho, and he won't be on buttons either. Probably the easiest one to do it to is a youngster in Garnacho, who probably earns the least out of the lot of them. But years ago it was very, very common, because players were not on big salaries and the clubs held all the cards. And in some sense the club do hold the cards in terms of contracts here, but when things are going wrong, as they have been at United for quite some time, and you look and you're 3 months into a season and you're getting a shellacking, and you've got probably somewhere close to £1 million a week training at 5 o'clock, then the financial people involved in the ownership start asking questions. Is this the right decision? Is this the best we can do with what we've got? And is this the best scenario all round? And I think when things like this are prolonged, the cost side of it for having players just shunted to the side like this is immense. And I don't think, looking at what Ineos in particular, their rhetoric over the last 6 months, I don't think even a club like Man United can shoulder that kind of burden of losing that kind of money just to have people not involved. Not the way they're losing money.
Frank, just back to Nedum's point, how would you have handled that situation?
It's hard. As a human being, you feel offended. You feel that you're not allowed to do your job, and especially on Nedum's situation, it's completely unfair. Now for players like Rashford or Sancho, for example, I would say to the players, you want to play football? Cut your wage, maybe 4 times less and go back to football. Maybe they have responsibilities, or they have a way to get out. I mean, money talks, okay, nowadays, but it's not the only thing that you have to experience, Football is a fantastic game. You have a chance to do that. You are wasting your time, not showing before 5 p.m. It's awful what they do to you, but there is a way to escape. For Nedum's situation, it was completely different. That's completely unfair. That's disrespectful, and I would have been out of my mind. I think I would have been ready to smash the person who decided that against me. But for the others, there is a way to get out of that system, and especially for Rashford. Don't tell me that if Rashford cuts his wage 4 times less, that nobody's going to hire him. Tomorrow he has like 20 clubs, at least. So there is a way for those players. It's not convenient, it's not nice, but if they love football, that's the only way they can get out of that situation.
When it's happening that badly to you, you've got to humour the situation. You know that I've told you about this. When John Gregory was trying to get myself, Fabrizio Ravanelli and Brian O'Neill out at Derby, it got to there was so many different scenarios, it was just beggared belief actually. But one of them was Derby County had built a new training ground, and all the players were going to see it on the bus, apart from myself and the 2 others who were banned from going to see the new training ground. So when all the players got on the bus at the old training ground, Brian and I decided to get on the bus and sit at the front. And
what a surprise!
and all the coaching staff and the manager, we could all just see the blinds keep opening from the manager's office. We were sat in the bus going like that. Hey! And then eventually they wouldn't come out. And Brian and I got bored and went, this is no fun now.
Yeah.
Let's go, let them go and see the new training ground. And so when you get treated like that, sitting behind the dugouts at Pride Park at Derby as we were, we then got moved to the upper tier of the stand the following week, because they said,
wow,
when the opposition scored, and I deny this, when the opposition scored, they said we were laughing. Now, I'm saying it was Brian and Neil that was laughing,
Were you?
not me.
Yeah,
Were
of course.
you?
Yeah.
So we got
roll the tape.
So we got moved to the.
They wouldn't allow you to park in, like, you weren't allowed.
This is how stupid it got, and I mean this. And listen, and I've said this all along. I've talked to John Gregory since then, and this was a two-way street. I was not blameless in the whole thing, but neither was he. But one day I came in, and bearing in mind I was club captain, I came in and I was told I couldn't park with the other players. I had to go and park with the supporters, about half a mile away. Wow. And on the same day I came in, and one of the players' fathers had said to me before the game, "Oh, I thought you had left." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because your number's off the back of the programme." So all the players were listed on the numbers.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9,
Wow.
10, 11. There was no 8. So they'd airbrushed the 8.
What an insult.
Yeah.
What an insult.
And you know when it gets to that stage, there's no way back.
Yeah.
There's no way back of a manager putting their arm around you. There is just no way back from that, particularly if you're an experienced player, as I was at that point. And so when you see that kind of stuff happen, and I said, I was not totally blameless in the whole thing. However, I would never have stooped to that kind of level and trying to force a player out of club. It didn't work, and it didn't end well for either of us, if we're being honest. But it's not, it's probably kid stuff compared to what happening at Man United at the moment. But that's the kind of childish stuff that can happen sometimes to try and get in your head.
Moving on.
Yeah.
What was there an away fixture you regularly look forward to, Frank? Because there was an activity, a restaurant, or an event place you'd always be sure to visit.
A restaurant?
An away fixture where I used to go before a game?
Yeah, so if you stayed the night, I don't know if you stayed the night afterwards. You'd normally go
I think
home.
what it's trying to, no. When we went to an away game, Frank, like Nathan would have, you went down the night before. The armchair football, whatever, I didn't want to explain that when you go for an away game in the Premier League or any other league, it's not a jolly up.
Right.
You don't say to the manager. I hope you don't mind, but I've just Googled a really nice restaurant around the corner, so I'm going to pop up. So that kind of thing.
And you don't stay the night there, you come back after the game, yeah?
No, you come back after the game, so I'm afraid, jolly up to restaurants and away trips are not happening.
Okay, Nathan, what's your thoughts on...
No, nothing.
What are your thoughts on Jordan Henderson going to Brentford? Does this mean he's guaranteed to start for Tuchel in England at the World Cup?
Guaranteed, I'm not sure about that. But to go to the previous question, this is the English version and European version, but playing in MLS, there were plenty of places that some of my teammates really look forward to going to because they quite enjoyed those trips over to New York for 3 days. That was a lot of fun for them. And also heading out west as well, sometimes a little bit of Californian action. Sometimes they go even further north, Portland, Seattle. Some very liberal rules over in some of these places in America. So some of my teammates very much enjoyed themselves. Let's just say that.
But not you, of course, Nathan, no? You're an innocent party in all of this.
No. Listen, coming from Europe, Dan Thomas, I was built to just arrive at the place, do business and go home.
Right.
All this sort of stuff, not for me, Dan.
No.
What about that great story Brian McBride told us? And I will not mention the player's name, but Brian McBride told us a story when he was at Fulham that a certain player in their team told his wife or partner that after every home game that they go and stay in a hotel for a debrief.
Yes. Stay overnight.
They stay overnight, which clearly they did not.
No. So then he could enjoy the company of somebody else, wasn't it, I believe?
And
Allegedly.
No comment.
I don't know how long that one lasts, but
You don't get these chats on the Golf Channel. Who wins the Open Championship, Craig?
I've not really been. I was watching a bit of the Golf Channel last night. It was Shane Lowry. I was watching.
Right.
I haven't really.
Who's the favourite's got to be Scotty Scheffler, yeah?
I would imagine so.
Yes.
McIlroy missed the cut at Portrush the last time it was there.
Right.
Put his first shot out of bounds.
Did he win the Scottish Open this weekend?
No, he finished runner-up to...
he's had his hair cut, hasn't he?
To Chris Gotterup.
Oh, who's Chris Gotterup?
Exactly.
There we are.
He won it. American lad.
Don's going to be there walking the course.
Is he?
Yeah. He's going to be there on Saturday and Sunday, and then he's playing the course on Monday, he was telling me. So if you see someone just wandering in the middle of the fairway...
It's in Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Don's going.
Yeah. I think he's going with McAteer. Who's got more brain cells?
Well, I actually think it could be Don. I saw him yesterday. Was it you that copped onto it on social media, where he was giving himself a pat on the back
Absolutely.
again? Well, I said
he discovered João Pedro and
I said,
yes.
I think I said on ESPN FC. I think you'll find if you check the tape. I said João Pedro.
Yeah. Well done, Don. There we are. That is it. Any thoughts on the Open, Frank? You don't watch the golf, do you, Frank? You don't care.
No, I don't watch the golf anymore. I want to play again, but it's been a while since I hit the club. But no, I love that game, but I have no time. Yeah, some people have to work, Mr. Burnley.
What time?
You know what?
There's some great videos of Naden playing golf. If you go on YouTube, actually, they're quite entertaining.
How do they find their way onto YouTube?
There's someone like a YouTuber who walks around with celebrities and plays like 9 holes with them, and they were a bit short one day, so they got Naden in.
Oh.
Well done, Dan. Well done.
There we
You've
go.
Nailed it.
Who's going to win the Open Championship, Naden?
Shane Lowry.
There we
Let
go.
him have it again.
Lot of thought on that. Thank you very much appreciated. ESPN FC then returns to your screens tomorrow.
Yep, Gyokeres.
Are you in tomorrow? No. Oh, wow. I think Stevie's here as well.